I did not know you were second generation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, my dad had a sign shop. I think he bought it in 1987. It was called King Signs, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I remember coming home from school, or going from school straight to the shop, laying underneath the weed table, doing homework, and you know, back then it was heavily a lot of hand painting, a lot of sandblasted stuff, like more signage than anything. We did a few vehicles, but mostly race cars, signage, stuff like that. My dad actually started. How he got into it was he was a billboard painter for Coca-Cola, and so he would hand paint billboards, and whenever they used to have a sign department back in the day, and so he would do all that stuff, and then he would hand paint like the metal signs that you see, like those old school looking signs. He would do all that stuff, and then he eventually opened up his own sign shop. And yeah, that shop is still operational today. Um, my goal was to one. Yeah, he sold it when I was just out of high school. I was hoping I would take it over, but I was just way immature and had no care about running a business at that time. I was gonna be a rock star and travel and tour the world and play music. And yeah, so that you see how that worked out.
You know what's funny is you and I are very similar in that regard. I had a full engineering scholarship, and my dad was so mad. I turned it down to go out west and do the same thing.
Wow.
And yeah, I went out west to Salt Lake City and played in a band and played music all day and got to play with some very big national, international acts that aligned with the type of stuff they were doing. That was super cool. Never thought I could ever do that, you know? We were
Right.
sell enough tickets. But you learn sales. Let me tell you, selling some tickets when you're a nobody is the hardest thing you'll do.
Man, we thought we hit it big because we played this Battle of the Bands, and we actually won a spot on the Vans Warp Tour. And so we actually got on the Warp Tour and we played with like all these huge name bands like My Chemical Romance, AFI, like all these huge bands. And and then we actually had a couple record labels looking at us. And then, long story short, our bass player was pretty addicted to some high end drugs and ended up, uh, well, he said somebody broke into our space and stole all of our stuff. And it was a bunch of stories about I still don't know what happened, but like all of our equipment was gone. The band got in a huge fight, broke up, and then that was it. But
I had a similar thing kind of happen to me, but not with drugs. It wasn't anybody internally in the band. So we actually were sharing a space with a band that did go big, like huge.
uh,
They're still live today. The I think only one member is still the original, but
what band is it?
it's Chelsea Grin.
Okay, I know them. Yep.
And so I actually shared a space with them, filled guitar with them for a little while. But they were out of Salt Lake, and very few bands have ever come out of Utah. But they went huge, and this was right before they went huge. But I was cleaning out. I think we just did a show down in South Utah. I had the whole band's equipment in my car. And I just loaded it in the car, went back into my apartment. I come back out, and half the stuff's gone.
Dang.
So like both of my guitars were stolen, my amp head was stolen, the cab was there. Basically anything they could grab quickly. I
Right.
walked out and I had a Honda CRX and the trunk and the hood was popped. So they inspected the car too. So I think that they were there to steal the car because back then there was a bad and that scene, if you will, that was when, Fast and Furious was big and all that stuff. But that scene
Right.
with all the turbo Hondas and stuff, like they would inspect your car and they would literally take it and gut the whole car and then dump the chassis on the side of the road. And it was big. It was huge over there. And so I think that's what they did. And they just quickly grabbed stuff that they saw that was valuable. Fortunately, most of the stuff that was lost was mine. So I didn't feel too bad. But that put me out of music. Like I spent a lot of money getting my gear right, and I don't like playing on cheap stuff, even though it plays really just about the same, just the placebo,
Right.
And worked hard, you know, especially back then. You're like 18, 19 years old, and you got like a $1,500 guitar, you know, the amp head and all that stuff. I mean, that's $3,000-$4,000 is a huge setback.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like after that happened, a good buddy of mine moved to California, and I was gonna move out there with him, and we got accepted to the Musicians Institute out there in Hollywood. Went out. I was gonna go out there. We visited out there. Me and Tabitha, her and I decided to go ahead and get married like quickly because we were gonna go out there together. And and then I couldn't afford it, man. The tuition was so much and the living was so much, so we ended up staying here. And then after I worked for a few other shops, but it was really weird because I was really young, but I knew a lot. So I got picked on a lot because I was I was telling like 40-year-old dudes like how to do their job, and they would get mad at me.
Yeah.
But eventually my aunt opened up a shop, and then once my dad's non-compete was up, he joined us, and then ended up getting a job offer here. After my dad left the company, he had some health issues and he couldn't be a part of it, and it was time for me to move on. And so I got a job offer here in Myrtle Beach managing a guy's wrap shop. So I took it, and then that's where I met Troy Yates. Actually, him and I used to work for the same company, and that company ended up selling out to a distributor. They were going to sell vinyl, and so like 8 months after I moved here, got a house and everything, I was like, "What the heck am I going to do?" And so we, went out on a whim and opened up Raps Inc.
That's awesome. Probably the best decision you ever made, huh?
Yeah, the best and the worst.
Yeah. That's a
No,
fact.
it was really the best. But I mean, you and I both know with that comes there's a lot of stuff that comes with it. It's not always rainbows and sunshine.
No. I mean, even when things are going, that's the thing is, I feel like the industry has a great deal of like, they look at me and my situation and don't realize how much pain is still behind it. Or they look at a successful shop like that, whether it be yours or anybody that's doing really good, or it looks like they're doing good. A lot of them aren't doing as good as you think they are, and or might be in no man's land right now after 2 or 3 years of doing really good. So like business is just mega peaks and valleys. I've never found like a nice smooth like course of just, you know, transition. It's always been like crazy high highs with the lowest of
Yeah, I remember I was talking with a friend of mine. He owned a motorcycle dealership, and on the outside, the dude looks loaded and has it made. Beautiful shop, great business platform. Everything looks like it's great. And then we were in a band together. Actually, we was playing a cover band here together, and I'd be like, "Man, how's business?" And he's like, "Dude, I got to pay like this guy like $200,000 for all of our bike inventory by next week, and I don't know how I'm gonna go." Well, I'm just like, "Oh my god!" So it's just like no matter what level you're at, it's kind of all the same stress. It's just different levels of stress.
you just handle it differently. That's what I've learned with hanging out with the other entrepreneurs that I have through masterminds and stuff, is that like our problems are not unique, and it's just we get better at dealing and managing with it. It's like a pressure pot. We just eventually get used to that pressure. And
Right.
then there's a bigger pressure pot down the road though.
Right. Yeah.
So
So that's what I enjoy doing. Even with our shop in Charleston, I'm the guy that's running it. He's calling me with some stuff, and I'm like, "Listen, it's normal. This is gonna happen. You're doing great. It's okay. Like, you guys are doing awesome right now." And just trying to encourage him just like I would anybody else. But um, yeah, it's just knowing that there are going to be stresses, and there are going to be a lot of different problems that you're going to face. And I think you and I being on the other side of some of those problems makes it a little bit easier to deal with it. Um, you know, I would I always try to put like problems in categories. Like, you got $500 problems, you got $10,000 problems, and you got $100,000 problems, and it's like you're dealing with $500 problems. You're just like, man, that ain't nothing. But to an employee or something who doesn't face that stuff and gets an unexpected bill or something in the mail, it could devastate their whole month. So it's like it's all the same stress. It's just a different kind of stress, different level for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes an extra zero tacked on the backside. But so how many years has Rap Inc. been around? So I mean, I believe you started quite a while ago. Yeah.
We started in 2006. Um, actually, December 6th of 2006 was our official, corporation date. Um, Whenever I started, it was just me for a little while. I did everything. I designed it, I sold it, I wrapped it, and then we did all kind of stuff when I first opened because I was very familiar with doing signage. I grew up doing signage, so we kind of came into the business and was offering everything to everybody. I remember putting up three-dimensional letters on a mini golf thing and just hating every bit of it because that's not what I enjoy doing. But you had to pay the bills, so I did a lot of that stuff for a while, and then eventually my wife came on board full time. She quit her job once we started actually making some ground and doing some work. Um, Luckily, whenever I did open up Wraps Inc., the company that sold out to the distributor, I had formed a lot of relationships with a lot of race teams that we dealt with, and I was able to keep those relationships, which actually helped kind of kickstart the business. And that kind of helped kickstart everything. And then once the racing economy kind of crashed in 2009, 10, we started doing a lot more commercial work. But yeah, I started in 2006. And I will say that probably 2017, end of 2016, 2017, we kind of had a rebirth. Um, I had quite a few employees leave at one time, and it was very unexpected, and it was very devastating. I thought I was just gonna, I thought I was gonna lose my crap. I don't know if you've ever been through something like that, but when you trust a lot of people, and then all of a sudden you find out that things were going on that you didn't realize, and people walk out the door, it kind of it kind of shakes your world a little bit. Um, but since then, we've kind of re- rebirthed ourselves, and me personally have taken on a different mindset as far as business goes. That's when I started getting heavily into reading and trying to figure out, okay, I know the technician side of the business, I can do any of that, but I have no clue how to actually run a business. And so it was kind of restarting all that stuff again and switching gears and into my mindset.
I got you. I want to go back to the rebirth. What do you feel that caused that? Like, were there any things that you were doing? Maybe you got comfortable, complacent, or what?
Yeah, totally. I blame it on myself completely. So we were at a point where I think we had about 6 or 7 people, employees, and I was at a point where my wife started selling real estate. She actually left the business. She got a job offer selling real estate, and it was really good. And when she started doing that, it was a big sigh of relief because for once I wasn't the sole breadwinner for our family, and so I was able to breathe a little bit. Wasn't a ton of pressure on me like always, and so it was nice. And then she started making really great money, and then she was like, you should try it too, and blah blah blah." And so I kind of lost my focus with the business, and I assumed that everything was running great on autopilot, and I failed to look ahead to the future, and I also failed to listen to my employees and kind of take care of their needs. And some of the red flags that I would notice now that I didn't really notice back then, um, I feel like I kind of removed myself from the business for a little bit because I just assumed I have a great business. Not that I had made it, but you get to a point where you do a ton of work. You're the one doing the work all day, every day. You're spending countless hours here. And then all of a sudden you have 5 or 6 employees, and then you don't have to be here as much, and it feels nice. And so you you take a breath and you're just like, wow, this is kind of nice. But um, in hindsight, that's when I should have focused on building rather than kind of relaxing a little bit. And I think that's where I definitely went wrong. I took my focus off of the business, and it just it 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 was definitely me that caused a lot of that pain. But
I got you. So, so I would say it's not even that you took the pressure out because you actually added pressure by going into real estate in a way. It was the shiny object syndrome.
oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I saw the money she was making, and I saw how much it took for us to make that same amount of money at a at a wrap shop. I'm just like, man, like I can do this. I can run both at the same time. And it was not all it was cracked up to be. So yeah, that was a huge thing. If I that's it's I mean, I don't really regret a lot of things that I did because it always leads to me, to where I am now. But um I do regret taking focus off of the business for that point of time.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it. I think everybody does it at some point. I mean, at that point, you're 11 years in, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and if you haven't been kicked in the shin yet, it's coming. But it's essentially the 11 years in, you start to think like, man, I've got this solved.
Oh yeah.
This is so easy
Totally.
now.
I totally thought I had it all figured out. I was just like, okay, I can do this. I I did go. I remember the one of the key moments was I went to Salt Lake City actually to record an album with the guy named Aaron Gillespie, who's the drummer in Under Oath, and he had a band called The Almost as well. And him and I connected, and I went out with him. He produced a record for me, and so at that moment I was like, wow, like I can do other things now and not have to be, you know, at the shop all day every day, and it consumed my whole life. And so that trip kind of opened up some things for me as far as like I it allowed me to see that I don't have to be there all the time, and it kind of gave me a false sense of freedom that I thought I had, but really, I mean, if I look back, our numbers were probably in shambles. Like we had no processes. We had nothing. Like we were I was not there at all as far as, feeling like I had everything figured out. I was very misguided, very misled.
Well, I think that's just life in general. I feel like anytime I've ever gotten high on my horse, I get humbled or slapped off the king's chair.
Right.
So that's why I definitely view things. I'm like, man, things have been a little light this month. Like, where's the kick in the shin coming? Like, I'm looking for it. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Uh, so that's interesting to hear.
And in that time, so and what happened was they left. We had a big job that we were doing out of town. I had to be out of town to do the job because the guys that would normally do that job, they were gone. My lead designer was gone. Um, my administrator that sat up front was gone. So all the key people that kind of ran the moving or ran the machine, they were gone. And so I had to pick all those pieces back up, and I had to go out of town, and I had customers calling me. They were upset because I couldn't get to their jobs because I could not miss this out of town job. It was a huge contract that I couldn't lose. And so I had to push off several customers during that week, and a lot of them left. And even after that, just keeping up, because once you build up to that size of a team and then half of them leave, I mean, it's hard to keep up with that workload. And it was just there was no way, and I had to take a step back and just kind of let the cards fall where they fell and try to regroup from there. And that's what we did. And it was just it was a beast. It was tough. It was probably the toughest time in business so far. So far.
Yeah, it just depends on how it's all relative to how far you keep going, right? I mean, it's a game of infinity. So
Right.
the lessons keep coming. Um, what would you say would be the principle that you extracted out of that situation? Like, if you were to really summarize it down to just a fundamental principle.
Take care of your people. take care of your employees, and that was something that I thought I was doing, but looking back, I could have done way more to retain them and probably could have used their skill at a much, to my advantage much more, because one of the guys that left, super smart guy. I mean, he was super smart. And I just, when you're the owner and you get to a certain point, you think you kind of know more than everybody. And my biggest fail was to kind of mold myself back into the team and realize that there are people that work for me that are probably smarter than me about certain things in the business. And I failed to listen to them. And that's a lot of what happened. It was a lot of, resentment and, from their part. And I should have really taken care of them better. So now it's that principle is I have to take care of my people, no matter what.
Now, I learned the hard way that not everybody likes to be taken care of the way I do, though.
That is true.
And that's something that was very hard for me to learn because, like, I was the kind of guy who, all right, on Christmas, I'm giving fat checks because that's what I want to get. So I was like, I wouldn't do much during the year, but Christmas time, like right around Thanksgiving, I would write like my lead guy. He was like 9 years in. At one point, I think I wrote a $6,000 check for Christmas, like huge Christmas bonuses. And it was because I could. Like I knew that they got me what we had earned that year, right? I was always fair in that regards, but
Right.
I didn't take care. Like certain people, there was a guy on my team that 100% did not care about the money. He just wanted to be seen. That was it.
Right.
And then another guy just wanted life experiences. And I started to to learn how to, once we started doing disc profiles and all that good stuff, I started seeing how people liked to be rewarded or even just paying attention to what their needs were. I took one guy who was on my team. He started really, really young. One of my clients was like, "Hey, I believe in this kid. Like, it's not just because he's dating my daughter. I believe in this kid, and I think he's going to do great things." That dude has improved so much in the 2, 3 years he's been with me. But at first, I would have just thrown money at him. He does not care about money. I took him out to
I have a guy.
I took him out to Zion National Park. He just wanted to see mountains. He had never seen mountains before, and I was doing a wall wrap project for easier accounting out in St. George, and it was a fairly large project. But we like rushed it out, did it all in one night, and then we went and spent the whole rest of the week in Zion, and like he loved it. And he had like a fearful death, like scared of heights because he's never been up that high before. But we went and did we got permits for the or Angel's Landing. So we did it's like a pretty dangerous hike, but it's like up and then you see the whole valley of Zion. It's really cool. So
Wow.
but I mean, he still clings to that memory to this day. I even just said the other day, I was like, can't believe this was 2 years ago. We need to go again. He's like, let's go. Like, so, little stuff like that.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's a part of it too is realizing that not everybody ticks the way you do. And, sometimes people are motivated by freedom and sometimes people are motivated by money. And then sometimes people are motivated by, like you said, uh, recognition and a pat on the back, you know? Um, I have all 3 of those or all 4 of those in my shop currently, and I have to figure out, or I had to figure out what it takes to motivate these guys and make them, you know, uh, work as hard as they can and feel appreciated at the same time. So, yeah, it's definitely true.
It's a struggle because like it doesn't make sense to me. Sometimes like this isn't a reward, but to
Right,
them it's the world, you know.
right.
Um, so fantastic. Well, I want to move on to being that you've started in 2006, and naturally you got a nice recharge in 2016, 2017. What's kept you motivated moving forward? Like, what's kept you like the eye on the ball and away from those shiny objects, other than the pain that you went through?
Well, going through the pain for one, and also, during COVID, just like everybody else, we took a step back. We had to let our guys go for a little bit, And because I didn't know what was going to happen, I didn't know, and I wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. So they were able to get unemployment and all that stuff. And then just kind of whenever I realized that, okay, Brent, the worst thing that can happen to you is that you do this by yourself again. And then feeling what that felt like, and it was actually not bad, you know, and kind of getting that fear out of the way, because as a business owner, you're always fearful, or I was always fearful. What if I train these people and then they decide to leave and then I'm left by myself again, or what if, the rap world crumbles and then this is what we're left with. And so it was always a fear of mine. And so I think operating out of a mindset of confidence and knowing who I am and knowing that no matter, there's nothing outside of me that can happen that can change the inside of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what happens, nobody can ever take the knowledge from my head or the situations or the experience that I've been through. And those things they will be with me forever, and I could rebuild tomorrow. So I'm not really fearful of situations anymore, um, that I can't really control. Like, it doesn't bother me. And then I'm just, leading with confidence, I think, is the biggest lesson that I learned and the biggest takeaway from all that. And that's what's helping me go forward now is, and what I was getting to was the people that I have now, knowing how to appreciate those people and how to lead them and manage them well. But also at the same time, I know that not everybody is going to be with me forever. And so I know that some of these people are going to leave, and that's okay. And I will find another employee, that can do the same thing. Not that I would want to. I mean, not that I'm not saying everybody's replaceable, but I'm saying it's inevitable that people are going to leave you, whenever you own a business. You can't keep everybody forever. And what motivates me is how can I help them in their personal life as well as their professional life. And this is a conversation you and I have had before. It's, when you go over with them, what are your goals, not only for work, but what are your goals in life? And that's what keeps me motivated every day is I have several families that depend on every decision I make, that they depend on the vision that I cast, and then they depend on how I lead and execute that vision and the plans that I've set forth. And so when you see these employees have babies and you go to their baby showers and they buy new homes, and in the back of your mind you're like, wow, like, not that I provided for them to buy these homes, but I have to make sure that they can still afford this house 2, 3 years from now and afford to upgrade and do whatever they want to in life, just like, you and I want to. Um, and so that's what really keeps me motivated. It's not I kinda took numbers out of it as far as motivation because money comes and goes. Um, but the thing that I enjoy most is really affecting the lives of the people that I feel that God has given to me, because I do feel like my employees were given to me for a reason, and I feel like everybody's in my life for a reason. And so I have to steward that with, um, such attention and such, I have to steward it very carefully, and it's a big responsibility, something that I don't take very lightly. So that motivation is what keeps me kind of going every day.
Right. I think we're actually in unprecedented times too. Like, you don't hear a lot of stories of like crazy mega success in our trade, but I think it's coming in the next 10 years. Like, I think a recipe is going to be solved. And I've been saying this to a lot of people, but you look at the HVAC space, it used to be just two guys in a truck
Right.
for the longest time. And all of a sudden they cracked the code on it. And then obviously there were some cases of big money getting into it. But the point is there was a recipe that was created and they're like, follow this recipe and you'll succeed. I think right now we're in a little bit like we're in the early stages of getting sophisticated like that. I think we're starting to see a lot of people come up and rise to the plate of trying to be like that. You got people like Tyler Dunn running a huge mega operation. A couple people are kind of leading the pack, but it's also going to elevate the bottom side of it too. So the median's going to go up.
Right.
I don't think soon it'll be too unheard of for, shops to be running, $3 to $5 million shops. Whereas right now it's like to even see a $10 million shop's like mission impossible,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and those are exciting times. It's really good. Like whenever you talk to somebody that's in another trade, it's hard for them to understand really how young this industry is and how it's in a very um it's in a good space right now. And I feel like the ones who have kind of stepped out on the forefront and recognize, hey, this is what this industry needs. Like I feel like they're doing a really good job of that. And I feel like it's that those are the people and those are the things that are going to help to propel the rap industry to another level. I've always said what's missing from the rap industry is not a lack of rap installers or installation skills, but it's just business. I mean, whether you're a good installer or a great designer or wherever you got into the business, at some point you're going to have to be a business owner and you have to learn about business. And so I think that's becoming well aware now because raps are becoming more popular. And as they do that, the demand on the shop and the shop owner to be a business owner versus just a technician is greater. And it's forcing them to grow outside of their comfort zone. And so there's definitely a lot of people searching for, okay, I'm here now. How do I get from, you know, point A to point B and do it the right way?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's somebody that just recently got into our space that sold his business for $200 million.
Wow.
So, and he does not, he's indirectly in our space, but the point is they're creating like a mega umbrella company and he's opening the door for other people to see that, oh, raps can make money. Like
Right.
there's going to be a lot more money guys, business people who are going to come in who understand business, who might not be as tenured as some of these installers that are business owners. And I think that's going to propel it forward too. Like there are a lot of people internally propelling it forward, but there's like some serious people who just understand the game of business that are getting into our space. And I'm interested to
Right.
see what that's going to turn into.
Yeah, I think you're gonna be seeing a lot of that. I would love to see, companies being bought out by huge companies like you see in other industries.
That's exactly what excited me about that person getting in is because I'm like I've been building to sell. Like I have a lot of things going on. For example, my whole team is aware of that, and we have a plan to do so. My original plan was just a couple of years. Now I'm like, I think I should hold the card for 5 or 6 because the actual exit will actually be dramatically increased because I don't think it's going to be too uncommon soon that you're going to see transactions in our trade. Right now, you see it every single day in the HVAC space. I've done a job, just completed it, and then they get bought out, and then they have me rewrap that job. Like
Right.
it's crazy how many like hands are being tossed around in that space. And 5, 6 years ago it was not the case at all.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's gonna force us as business owners to get a little bit more sophisticated in how we play this game, and it'll actually, guys like my dad sold his shop. Um, I don't know exactly how much he got for it because I was never brave enough to ask, but I'm sure it wasn't a ton of money because, there was never a point in my life where I saw my dad just pull up with a Corvette or some, you know, that says, "Hey, I just came into a lot of money." Um, but it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna force us to be more sophisticated, and it's also gonna give us a little bit of insight as to, wow, this thing that I'm building is actually worth something. How can I make it worth more? And then how do I make it look appetizing to someone who does want to get into this space? Because a lot of it's really grassroots. Why we get into the business, a lot of rappers and a lot of designers, we just love what we do. We don't get into it to make a butt ton of money. I didn't.
Yeah.
I got in it because I had to survive and it was the only thing I knew how to do. And I just know I loved it. And I loved it enough to stay here till 2 in the morning and come back at 6 in the morning, or, drive 3 states away to install a race car and then drive right back and then start up the shop the next morning. Um, money was never the motivator. It was just how can I do what I do and have fun and be able to sustain my family. But now when you see, like a friend of mine, he just got bought out. And I mean, if I told you how much money they gave him, it's insane.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at that and I'm just like, wow, like when will that happen in our space? And then will it happen? And then that's pretty great looking to me, you know? And so it's kind of getting that whole plan together and realizing that, this passion has become an industry that is now getting attention worldwide and is getting people that are really business savvy to look into our industry and say, wow, there's something to this,
Mhm. And
you know?
to break it down for people that don't understand, like I look at a lot of deals. Like I don't, not because I'm buying, I'm not like that yet, but I pay attention because that's something I'm interested in. So your shop with, let's just say, $200,000-300,000 profits only worth like 2 to 3 times net, just because it's just not, it's too young, too grassroots. Like you said, it's not a business's job. So it'd have to be like an enthusiast who wants to put his stamp on your business and make it better, right? So it takes a specific kind of
Right.
buyer. They do exist, but it's not a huge like retirement or like something that really like, I'd rather just keep the cash flow from the business and just keep,
Yeah.
running year by year. But once you hit 1 million, and let's just say profit for simplicity's sake, your business is now worth 4 to 6 times that amount. Okay. At 5 million in profit, it can be, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but depending on how good your books are, it can be worth 8 to 12 times. So that's the reason why these HVAC guys are buying up, because there's break points where the multiple jumps. And it's better to acquire than it is to grow, because it's faster.
Right. And then if they're an equity firm, they'll make that business, they'll take it to the next tier and then they'll sell it to someone else.
Oh yeah, there's levels of equity too.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy. Um, that's what I was just talking about with a friend of mine, and we were just talking about that same thing. But yeah, it's looking at what do they look at and what do my numbers look like, and if somebody were to approach me today, what would I be able to show them?
Yeah.
And so I think it's working towards that, even if you're not going to sell or don't even care about selling, like that's really not in my sights right now. But it's uh, you know what if you did? What if something happened and you had to, or whatever? Why not take a fine tooth comb and go through your books and go through the numbers and make your business the most efficient and profitable as possible?
It
And
does nothing but benefit you. That's what
right,
people don't understand, is that also means that you're taking home a high net profit, therefore taking
right,
care of yourself.
right,
And it helps you with your impulse control for sure. Because a lot of people just say write off, write off, write off, but it doesn't really do anything for you.
right.
I've done it.
We all have.
My mentor, literally, whenever I would be like, "Hey boss, I want to buy epoxy floors, like for my shop, make it look better for the customers." He goes, "It doesn't make you money. We're not buying epoxy floors." And I like, but it looks good. He goes, "The customers don't care what it looks like. The customers care what you do."
Right,
Because we were still so small, right? Like we were like sub 500K shop at this point, and they're like, they're only buying because they like you, not because what your shop looks like. And
right. But I think, well, I think what's a lot of what's fueled that recently is the whole Instagram, the Instagram shop that you see that has the honeycomb lights in the ceiling, which I cannot stand. I don't know how somebody could rap with those because I would see that pattern in the vehicle, and it would literally drive me crazy. But
I
some
like
guys
vertical
like it.
lines.
Right, some guys like it. It would make my eyeballs go nuts. But, it's just that sort of stuff, and and you see that stuff and you kinda chuckle and you're just like, "Man," like, you know, I was I've done stuff like that. "Oh, let's get
Mhm.
the epoxy floors. Let's you know, do whatever just to make it cooler," or and but I will say, once we actually bought our building and we were able to do those things responsibly,
Yes.
it does make a difference when you have the product to go with it and the customer service and the reputation, because people will walk into my shop and they'll say, "Wow, am I in the right spot?" Because this doesn't look like any graphic shop I've
We
ever
may
been to.
imagine, right.
But we're trying to sell a higher end product, so it helps our selling. And yeah, part of me, I did it because I had a vision for what I wanted my shop to look like, and if I had multiple locations, what I wanted them to look like. And but I never did that when I was only renting. I waited until I bought the building and I was like, "Okay, if I'm gonna invest, it's gonna be investing in something that's mine, not someone else's."
Yeah.
So yeah, for like 14, 15 years, we had a crummy looking space that was, I mean, we did the best we could with it, but I wasn't gonna put a bunch of money into something that I didn't own. So
Well, I can tell you when I bought them out, I finally decided to epoxy my floors, and I moved 3 months later.
see, that's why.
So, I think that was the underlying message he was really trying to tell me was don't put money into somebody else's asset, but, you know, it is what it is. Uh, and so I'm there. I wanna buy my own building and then do it for sure because you're elevating the value of the building, and like you said, it's responsible. And you can do it on somebody else's thing too, but I think you should put the first thing first, which is making sure that a lot of people don't treat the business itself as an entity, meaning you do have an EIN number. That means that it's technically like a social security number. So it's a living, breathing thing. It needs a paycheck too. So,
Right.
and that's your buffer. So, like, thank goodness that I've always treated it that way. But like, the entity needs cash flow. The entity needs money residing in the bank to exist. And like we always kept like 6 months worth of buffer, and even that's not a lot. You go through it quick. Like in a bad time, it goes quick. Um,
Yeah.
I had a few negative multi five-figure months, and it'll wake you up you'll sober up real fast. But
Right.
but
That's those $10,000 problems we were talking about.
yeah, I think the highest negative I ever had was like a negative like $27,000 a month because I took my eye off the ball and I had the train coming at me, and I was like, all right, we got to turn this thing around. Like, just got distracted, like you said. Luckily, it didn't cause any harm, but had I not been paying enough of attention, it could have put me under for sure.
Well,
Go ahead.
and to that point, whenever I took my eye off the ball, if you asked me what our numbers were, I had no clue. My thought process was always, well, I'm still in business, so I must be doing something right. And so just keep doing what you're doing. And then once you finally get all that stuff straight, you look back and you're like, I don't know how we stayed in business.
Lucky is why.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have your books right, and that's something I mean, myself included, I'm definitely not a bookie. I'm more of a feel type of person, and I can run off of patterns, and I understand them for some reason. Um, It's even how I do math. It's weird. Like Common Core was something I never had to go through because that wasn't my era, but that's how I did math and patterns. I didn't realize that. I just taught myself that in my head. And so like that's how I can keep track of my cash flow and like what was occurring based on the jobs that were coming through. And like I could just in my head, like I always did pretty good up until a point. And then after that, because the numbers were bigger, really big down or really big up. Like it was no in between.
Right. And
So
it's the same with even with estimating and job costs and all that stuff, uh, sometimes the guys on my team, they'll ask me or, our estimator, what are you thinking for this? And I'm like, well, I don't want to think. Like, I want to know what it is. Like, so what is it? And then they're like, well, what do you think? And I was okay. Well, if I had to throw out a number, this is what it would be. But let's figure it out. And then when we figure it out, I'm literally like $50 off from the number. I'm just like, wow, okay, I'm pretty good. But I don't want to run my business like that because, you know, jobs change, and as jobs get bigger, it's or, material evolves, all that stuff changes very quickly. So, especially when if you're far removed from the um I don't know, if you're far removed from the everyday workings of the business, or even your customer base, sometimes that can you'll go off facts that you knew 2 years ago versus what's true now. Like, sometimes I'll say something and my guy's like, the guy who orders our material, he's like, "Well, the material's up, 15% now." I'm just like, "Okay, wow, I didn't know that." And so, yeah, so, just stuff like that. That's why I'm like, "Don't worry about what I think. This is let's go on what is the numbers telling us. That's how we're gonna tackle the problem."
Yeah, let's run the math based on the formula. Um, well, I would like to kind of one thing I think that you've done really well, especially since the rebirth, just through our conversation, just observing, paying attention to what you guys do, because we talk quite a bit, is your staff. Like, what are you doing to attract the people that you want? Because you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing and lead the way you are. I mean, you're not out installing every day. You're leading from the front. You're making sure to navigate the ship, keep it away from obstructions or potential destruction. Um,
Right.
how are you maintaining, taking care of the staff now? What are you doing to make sure that they're seen, heard, and appreciated?
Um, Whenever I worked for other companies and I started my own company, I vowed to always make sure I didn't become a crappy boss, because I had worked for a lot of those. And so what I learned through that is just to really take care of my people and try to listen to what they want and what motivates them, like we were talking about earlier. So one thing that I've done recently that's helped a bunch, and I don't see a lot of shops do, and if some shops do this, I'm just not aware, but you'll see a lot of shop owners and higher ups go to ISA, RapsCon, some of these big conferences, and they just go by themselves. And I'm not like that. So I want to bring my team with me because I want them I know whenever I go to those shows, I get really motivated, and it helps me see what the industry's doing. And, you get excited. It's just a natural thing. And it's really great. That's the great thing about going to the shows and conferences. So I was like, I want that effect to be felt by my employees. And so whatever it costs to go, we just budget that out. And the last ISA, we got an Airbnb, and I think we had 10 people with us.
It's not
And
cheap.
I no, but I'm gonna tell you what, it's so worth it because and we all did the Avery Dennison Business Boot Camp because one, you know, as an installer, who doesn't want to sit in a classroom with John Doover and Justin Pate? Guys that you've watched in the industry, you've watched YouTube videos and you respect them. And so it's really cool to hear what I've been preaching to them come from somebody that they respect immensely and have followed. I don't install every day, like you were saying. So I can go back there and tell them, I think you should do it this way because it's more efficient. But they're back there every day and they're like, well, this is the way I do it. I've been back here for 3 years and this is the way we do it. But to hear it from somebody else who they do know is a rap beast, in the industry, it carries a little bit more weight. But it that's one thing that's really motivated the team in the past couple years is getting them as involved in those things as I was because I saw the effects it had on me and I wanted them to feel that. Um, I pay for a lot of lunches. Probably once a week we all go out to a lunch together to a restaurant. We sit down, we talk about the business, we talk about what's going on in their personal life. I I try to actually get to know them and show them that I'm investing in them, not just as an employee, but as a person. And so, we've had baby showers here. We've had, you know, everything that goes on in an employee's life. We try to make it a special event, and we try to make sure that they are 100% part of a family. Um, and I don't think most of them will mind me saying this, but a lot of my guys in the back, they didn't grow up with a father. And so for me, it's, you know, you sort of become this father figure to some of these guys who are younger, and they really look up to you for a lot of things. And whenever I take the time, I'll call, it's really not formal. Some businesses are very regimented as to how they do one-on-ones with their employees. We're not. I walk in the back, I see a guy's having a rough day. I'm like, "Hey man, come to my office." And I talk to him, "Hey, what's going on? How's life going? How's your kids doing? How's your wife doing?" And just get to know them as people and understand why maybe they're installing slower that day or that week, rather than coming back there and saying, "Why is this not done? We have deadlines, blah, blah, blah." But it's realizing that just like I have kids that get sick and I have a wife who has issues sometimes and I have problems, well, guess what? All these people that work for you, they all deal with that too. And so I think it's understanding that everybody has a life, and I try to make I try to make it, very family atmosphered, and then just, keeping an eye out for the ones who are toxic and getting rid of them. It's not worth it. It's not worth to keep it around. So, um, I how I attract good staff is what's crazy is I have people who are like boyfriend and girlfriend or wife or husband to my employees, and they beg me for a job because they see how happy that their wife or husband is. And they come in, they're just like, "What can I do to work here? Like, is there anything, like, what do you need?" Like, I really could, because they come to our functions as well. So we have a thing, it's called Family Friday, that we do once every 2 months, I think. And we invite the whole family, their kids, everybody, they all come out. We shut down work for the day or for the, later part of the afternoon. They come, we grill out, and they just have a good time. And, they literally will ask me how can I work here? Because I see what you guys do, and I really love being part of the family. And so, I mean, that's all. We just care about our folks here, and we try to do the best we can to, like I said before, steward, the people that God has given us. So,
I like it. I mean, that's something that a lot of people really struggle with. So, and I think myself included, like when you first become the boss, it's a little lonely and we don't have people parallel to you or to the side of you, right? Horizontally, because you're
yeah,
technically the
and
boss, right? So you kind of get lonely and then you start to befriend your staff per se. And unfortunately, there's a fine line, but you could still befriend people and still be boss. It's a delicate balance. But what I did was I went all in on friend for a while and that caused issues, but I was
right,
also really young. But then I went into asshole, right? And I'm a
right,
fearful boss and these things and like, why aren't you getting this done? And I found that being somewhere in between, like you said, treating them like a human beings. We don't even use terminology like employee in our shop. Um, they talk to me as if I am horizontally to them, like,
right,
but respectfully, but we try to where they can call me out, but we keep it fun and I call them out. And one thing I definitely need to do more is like what you're doing is actually stopping the work for a moment and just showing them that, hey, work's important, but so are you guys. Because you're kind of like sharpening the axe, if you will, when you pause and take the guys out for a lunch, even though that technically there's opportunity factor cost there. You're
right.
technically shutting down for not just 1 hour. you're shutting down by 1 hour times X employees.
Right. But the insight that you learn from that hour it's awesome. And we recently we did it about 2 weeks ago, and, I had some things that I used it more of a meeting, but I wanted it to be very informal because we were introducing, um, some new processes in the back, and I wanted it to be taken as, as well as possible. And so sitting down with them on their level and just saying, "Hey, like, these are some issues that we're having. Um, you know, I think you guys are doing a great job, but how do we fix this as a team?" And I think I know in my head what the solution is, but I wanna open it up to them to see if they can find the solution as well, and see if they come to the same solution as I do, and most of the time they do, and sometimes they come up with better things. Um, I think it's realizing that just because I'm the owner doesn't mean I'm the smartest person in the room about certain subjects, and I think realizing that has helped me a lot as well. I used to be very cocky and, I would definitely if I saw somebody doing something wrong, I was the first one to jump in and like, "No, this is how you do it. You gotta do it this, this is the right way to do it, and blah, blah, blah." Instead of and sometimes it wasn't the right it was the right way to do it, but maybe it wasn't the best way. And so it's learning to trust, um, my employees to make their own decisions and being very surprised that the solutions that they find and the decisions that they make are either something that I would do or better. And so just giving them trust and, letting them kind of take the reins on some of that stuff. One, it takes stress off of me, but it empowers them and gives them, the ability to say that, "Hey, what I'm doing here is important and it does matter because Brent's giving me the authority to make this decision and this decision, and he trusts me."
Yeah.
And it's awesome, like I have some guys that will call me out just like you said. Um, and it hurts whenever you're wrong. But sometimes I'm wrong. And I'll just be like, "Okay, like you're right. We'll do it your way, you know, carry on."
Yeah.
And it's just, it's learning to I don't know, man. It's just I think business is just people. It's learning how to deal with people. And I think when you realize that we're all the same and we're all trying to do the same thing and we're all kind of going the same way on the team, it's all right. Like you don't have to always be the smartest person. So,
Well, what's interesting is it's actually liberating. So once you started actually letting people think for themselves and teaching them how to do so, that's when you no longer have decision fatigue
right.
because you get frustrated. I don't care how good you are. If you're making every decision in the business, you're an asshole because at that point you're tired of making decisions, and then you go home and you're an asshole and you're tired of making decisions. Like you're just sick of decisions. Whereas now I make maybe 3 decisions a week maximum because the team is bearing that burden independently amongst themselves. And like little things have happened in my shop. Like we moved into a 9,000 square foot facility that we bought a ramp for that was supposed to have been 30 foot. That was not 30 foot. It was only 25, which meant that only trucks and vans could get up it because the grade was too steep.
Wow.
Come to find out, my operations manager legitimately made a $10,000 decision without including me, already sold the other ramp, negotiated terms because the guy said I can only pour it this week or I won't be available for 3 months, and it was a client of ours. She was, we can't pay for it right now. We just put down deposits. We just did this. We just did that. How about this? You pour it now. I'll pay you 1 installment, and we'll do 3 installments for the next 3 months. I can do that if you want to fill in the gaps. And so they made it work, and they probably made it work better than I would have. I would have probably went to the line of credit and like, yeah, okay, let's just do a line of credit for 10 grand. They got terms for free interest,
Right.
right? But
Yeah. It's those and most time they're little decisions, but that's not a little decision. Um, but yeah, it's trusting your guys to do that stuff, and then, like I say, you're on the other side of it. You're very pleased with how it turned out, but in the middle of it, you would have probably killed them because
Oh,
you're
had they asked me, no shot that would have happened. I'm
right.
like, y'all can deal with the 25-foot ramp for right now because we've got way too much going out. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, even down to the decision on the lease, I still have not stepped into that building. And I was like, how do you guys feel about it? I'm like, this is going to take us to the next level. That's what all of them said. I was like, you firmly
Right.
believe that? They're like, yes. I was like, we're going to lose customers in our original location because we've been there for 13 years and we're now moving 45 minutes away from it. And there's a bridge and water that separates it. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. They're like, we will make it work no matter what happens. It's like, you don't have air conditioning in this building. It's going to $60,000 to put HVAC in this place. We probably won't put it in the first year. Is that okay? We'll work and we'll just put some fans on. Like they signed, like they were that convicted that was the move. I was like, all right.
Right, but what it makes them do is it makes them take ownership of that decision, and so now they can't complain if there's no AC in there because they made that decision, instead of you making that decision for them. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of doing that is, uh, you know, giving the people opportunity to do that, and then also they have some sweat in the game now, and now whatever decision they made, well, they have to deal with that decision.
Yeah. Even down to we're trying to trade one of our customers. They need ladder racks for like 30 units or something like that, which comes out pretty close to the ticket rate of a HVAC. And so we're like, hey, would you be interested in trading ladder racks for a unit? And then we talked to the install team like, hey, if we trade this, there's not a lot of margin on this compared to film. Do you want to like? They're like, we will do it to get the HVAC in here. If you can lock that in, we'll install it for free to get the HVAC in here. Like kind of thing. Like
Right.
so, like they're bought in, for the mission and the game plan. And I think that's what you're doing is you're cultivating that to where people become bought in, and that's awesome. So
Right, because I mean, at the end of the day, I want everybody to win. I don't want to be the only one winning. I want everybody to feel the wins like I do.
yeah,
So,
awesome. Well, where can people find you?
Raps Inc. is you can just Google Raps Inc. WRAPSINK, like printer ink. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Go to our website,
They can find you on Spotify too, huh?
Spotify, yep, iTunes.
If you guys didn't know, he's still a rock star.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
That's awesome, man. So
I still have a goal to get a Grammy. We'll see.
there you go.
I'm not letting go of that.
You never know. It could happen at 60. It could happen at 80. I actually heard recently that Mike Rowe's mom didn't get her first book deal until she was 80.
Wow.
Yep. And so
Takes one song.
that's all it takes. So
One song.
awesome. Well, I love what you're building, man. So keep on keeping on, and appreciate having you out here.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
All right. See ya.
All right, bye.